A visitor in the night. Audio by paper to audio. A visitor in the night. A From Time's invincible crossover short story. The sky over the town split open with a sound like grinding metal. Most residents were used to strange horrors, voices in the trees, shadows that smiled, and the nightly monsters that came with the dark. But none of them had ever seen anything like the figure who fell from the sky that day, tall, armored in gray and white, with an expression that suggested he'd been annoyed for centuries. Conquest battle-scarred Viltrumite warrior rose from the crater as if brushing off dust. He looked around, sneered, and muttered, "Where in the void am I now?" Boyd's Diner was the first building he approached. The townsfolk inside froze. They expected something monstrous. Instead, Conquest simply demanded, "Where is the strongest one among you? I wish to negotiate." But nobody was strong in this place, not compared to him. Except maybe Sarah. She wasn't strong in fists or muscle, but she'd survived madness, nightmares, and losing control of her own mind twice. She stood up when no one else would, eyes steady despite the fear twisting her stomach. "I'll talk to him," she said. When Conquest turned to face her, something in his expression softened, only for an instant, but enough. "You've suffered," he observed, not as sympathy but as recognition. "And you're dangerous," she replied. He chuckled, "Then we understand each other." Nightfall. That night the monsters came as always, circling the houses with their false smiles and horrible sugar-sweet voices. Conquest watched them approach with mild curiosity. "They pretend?" he asked Sarah, who stood beside him at the attic window of Colony House. "It's how they lure you out," she whispered. Conquest stepped outside. The townspeople screamed, but Sarah didn't. Something inside told her this was a man who'd never once run from fear. The monsters swarmed him, dozens at once. They slashed, tore, shrieked in unnatural chorus. He barely noticed. A single punch obliterated three. A backhand sent another spiraling into the tree line. These creatures were horrors to humans, but to Conquest they were fragile toys. He flew into the air, grabbing two at once, and threw them into the sky after flying nearly a mile, hovering over the town. He plunged with them into the earth, vibrating the homes of the terrified townsfolk. The monsters' bodies obliterated by the impact, he manically laughed, dismembering the remaining monsters like they were made of clay. When the last one crumpled, he turned to Sarah and gave a crooked grin. "Your enemies break easily." "For you," she said, "everything breaks easily, doesn't it?" His smile faded into something more thoughtful. "Two broken people." Days turned to weeks. Conquest explored the forest, tested the boundary of the town, fought night after night, but always he returned to talk with Sarah. They spoke of things no one else understood: power and guilt, control and helplessness, the strange weight of surviving things that should have ended them. "You think I'm a monster," he said one evening. She shook her head. "I think you're dangerous, but monsters enjoy the suffering they cause." "And you think I don't?" "I think you're learning not to, and that scares you." He stared at her for a long time. No one in all his centuries had spoken to him like that. No one had seen him like that. "Sarah," he said quietly, "you would have made a fine Viltrumite." She laughed softly. "I don't want to be one, but you can stay with me if that's what you want." Conquest, destroyer of worlds, conqueror of civilizations, warrior of a dying empire, hesitated. "I've never stayed," he admitted. "Maybe it's time you did." He reached for her hand, carefully, as if she were made of something precious rather than fragile. The arrival. And so the town changed. The monsters still came, but they avoided the house where Conquest stood guard. The forest still whispered its strange warnings, but something new echoed through the trees, the low, confident rumble of a man who feared nothing. Some nights when the air was still and the sky mercifully silent, Sarah would sit beside him on the roof, legs dangling into the darkness. "You know," she said once, leaning gently against his arm, "you might be the only good thing this place ever sent." Conquest didn't smile often, but he smiled then. "For once in my life," he said, "I think I agree." A Visitor in the Night, Part II. Featuring Conquest, Sarah, Boyd, and Jade. The town had never been stable, but ever since Conquest arrived, its rhythms shifted. People whispered about him, mostly fearfully, sometimes hopefully. But Jade didn't whisper, he marched right up to him. Jade's warning. Jade approached Conquest by the lake, where he was idly skipping boulders across the surface. Each stone shot across the water like a cannonball, leaving trails of steam. "You're causing tension," he said flatly. Conquest glanced over. "You're bold. Few here speak to me directly." I'm not impressed, Jade replied. I've seen enough monsters to last a lifetime. I can't tell which kind you are yet. A small smile pulled at Conquest's lips. Ask Sarah, she seems to think I'm improving. That's what worries me. Jade crossed his arms. Don't hurt her. Conquest turned fully toward him, his expression shifting into something ancient and dangerous. I do not harm what I value. Jade didn't flinch. Even good intentions can kill someone here, just remember that. His honesty intrigued him, another human refusing to cower. He respected that, but he was right. His strength was a danger in a place built on delicate survival. He sighed, I will attempt restraint. It's all I ask, Jade said and walked away. Conquest watched her go, strangely grateful. Humans were unpredictable but occasionally admirable. Boyd's offer. Boyd found Conquest repairing the roof of Sarah's house, not because he had to, but because he'd declared it an unacceptable shelter for someone under his protection. You break it, you fix it, Boyd joked nervously, approaching with a tray of food. Something like that. Boyd set the tray down. We need to talk, big guy. Conquest paused. This seems to be happening often. Yeah, well, you're new and terrifying. Boyd sat on an overturned bucket. Thing is, the town's shaken, but Sarah's calmer with you around. That counts for something. Conquest raised a brow. You approve? No, Boyd said honestly, but I'm trying. He shifted awkwardly. You don't eat right. Human food, not really. Well, it's the thought that counts. Conquest surprised him by sitting too. You are unusually welcoming. Boyd chuckled. This place teaches you to take help where you can get it, even if that help punches monsters through trees. They talked for almost an hour, Boyd explaining how the town functioned, the rules, the routines, Conquest listening with increasing interest, and finally Boyd added, Look, Sarah's had a rough run. If you're staying, help her heal, not bleed. Conquest nodded once, slow, deliberate, I will. And Boyd believed him. Tension in the trees. One evening, Jade, Boyd, Sarah, and Conquest stood in front of the diner, watching fog creep unnaturally across the road. That's new, Boyd muttered. The forest seemed to hum, low and resonant, like a warning. Sarah felt Conquest tense beside her. What is it? She asked. He frowned. Not the usual monsters, something else, something testing me. Jade swore under her breath. Great, the town's evolving again. A figure moved within the fog, slow, deliberate, smiling wrong. It resembled one of the creatures, but taller, and its eyes were fixed solely on Conquest. You do not belong here, outsider, the voice echoed, not from its mouth but everywhere. Conquest stepped forward. Sarah grabbed his wrist on instinct. Don't, she whispered. Conquest, this might be a trap. He softened only for her. I do not walk into traps, I spring them. And then he launched forward. The creature lunged, faster than the usual night walkers. They collided with a sound like stone shattering. Boyd and Jade dragged Sarah back as Conquest, and the thing crashed through a house front through the back. It wasn't a fight, it was a challenge, and the creature was learning him, testing weaknesses, studying the way he fought. Minutes later, Conquest stood victorious but slightly bleeding, actually bleeding. Sarah rushed to him. You're hurt. Barely. He exaggerated. A cut across his ribs was deeper than he wanted her to see. Jade knelt near the fallen creature. They're getting smarter, stronger. Conquest wiped blood from his jaw. Good, I prefer an enemy that is worth my time. But Sarah looked pale, not because of the monster, because of him. You're not invincible, she whispered, not here. He touched her cheek gently. For you, I do not need to be. A strange peace. In the days that followed, Conquest healed slowly, far more slowly than he should have. Whatever force ruled this town was pressing against him, pulling at him like gravity. Conquest thought to himself, these creatures should not be able to touch me. I have fought beings in the vacuum of space next to event horizons, obliterating armadas of spacecraft. I have fought enemies that would make these look like insects. He was troubled by these thoughts. The Ragnar, the vicious alien race from the planet Klaxus, who had maimed him, taking his eye and his hand, were the only ones that could harm a Viltrumite like him, matching his strength. But regardless, every night, he remained by Sarah's side. Jade began to trust him, at least enough to say hello without flinching. Boyd made him a custom mug at the diner that said, World Breaker, try the pie. Conquest refused to admit he liked it, but he did and never used any other cup. The town still trembled, the creatures still plotted, but now the darkness had something to fear too. And Sarah. Sarah had found something she never expected, not just protection, not just affection, but someone who saw her broken pieces and didn't run. One night as they sat on the roof again, she leaned into him. "You know," she whispered, "for someone who came here by accident, you're becoming part of this place." Conquest looked out across the cursed town, eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Perhaps," he said, "but I stay for only one reason." He turned to her, and the fierceness in his gaze softened into something almost human. "You, not other Viltrumites. A visitor in the night, part I. The things in the walls." Night never truly fell in the town. It descended thick and heavy like a curtain pulled by invisible hands. Sarah and Conquest sat on the porch of her house, a silence between them that wasn't uncomfortable, just expectant. They had grown used to these quiet moments, stolen from the horror that surrounded them. But tonight, silence did not last. TABITHAS question. Tabitha arrived first, breathless and wide-eyed. She'd been hearing the walls again. "Sarah, Conquest, I'm sorry to bother you, but She stopped when she saw Conquest's ice-cold eyes fixed on her. "Is he safe to talk to right now?" Conquest raised a brow. "I am not a rabid beast." Tabitha attempted a smile. "Sorry, you're just intense." Sarah stepped closer to her friend. "What happened?" Tabitha swallowed. The voices changed. They weren't whispering, they were laughing. "And I swear one of them said your name, Sarah." Conquest stiffened. Sarah blinked. "Mine." Tabitha nodded. "And his." She pointed at Conquest. "Like they know you're together." Conquest stepped off the porch. "They are probing, testing their boundaries again." Tabitha stared at him. "Do you think they're afraid of you or interested in you?" Conquest didn't answer, but Sarah noticed the frown he tried to hide. ATHIAN's message. The next day, Ethan wandered up to Conquest near the diner, clutching a small notebook. Ethan never approached Conquest alone, not until now. Conquest," the boy said nervously. Conquest knelt so he didn't seem as towering. "You may speak." I had a dream or a vision or something." Ethan flipped open the notebook. "There was fog and trees and someone talking about you." Conquest and Sarah exchanged a look. "What did they say?" Sarah asked. Ethan hesitated, then read aloud. "The stranger with the broken star will bring the breaking of the door." Conquest frowned. "I do not know this symbol, broken star." Ethan tapped Conquest's chest plate. "The insignia on your armor, it was cracked in the dream." Conquest looked down at his armor, untouched, unbroken, yet Ethan had seen it damaged. Tabitha, who had lingered nearby, whispered, "Maybe the town is showing him something that hasn't happened yet." The hair on Sarah's arms rose. Conquest, the door, could it mean the way home or something worse? He didn't answer, but she saw a rare thing in his eyes. Uncertainty. And Donna and KNNYS discovery. Later that evening, Donna and Kenny burst into the diner while everyone was gathered for a meeting. "Everyone listen," Kenny said. "We found something near the boundary." Donna placed a small burlap pouch on the diner counter. Inside were dozens of little wooden talismans, the kind the townspeople used for protection. Boyd frowned. "Where'd you say you found these?" Kenny wiped sweat from his brow. "At the far edge of the forest, arranged like a circle, a trap, and at the center." He glanced at Conquest. There was a symbol carved into the dirt, like an eye watching. Conquest's jaw clenched. "The creatures are marking territory, mine." Sarah reached for his hand instinctively. He squeezed hers back almost gently. Jade stepped forward. "Why you? Why focus on him instead of all of us?" Conquest finally answered. "Because I am the first thing they have encountered that fights back and does not break." A chill moved through the room. "And because I am changing the balance of this place," he added. Then looking at Sarah, "And they do not like that. The night they came for her. That night the creatures didn't test Conquest. They came for Sarah." She woke up to the sound of tapping on the window, at first soft, then harder, then frantic like fingernails scraping wood. "Sarah, Sarah, let us in. He can't protect you forever." Her blood turned cold. Before she could scream, Conquest burst into the room. He hadn't slept at all, tearing the shutters from the wall. The creatures scattered backward, their smiles too wide, eyes gleaming with something like triumph. "They're not after me," Sarah whispered. "They're using me to get to you." Conquest's voice was low, shaking with fury. They will not touch you. But one creature lingered longer than the others, its head twitching unnaturally as it stared at Sarah. He can't stay. He doesn't belong. He will tear your world open. Conquest blurred forward, and the creature exploded into the trees. But the message lingered. Romance in a haunted town. After the attack, Sarah couldn't stop trembling. Conquest sat with her on the porch until dawn, her leaning into him, his arm around her shoulders. You don't have to stay with me every night, she whispered. I do, Conquest said simply. I want to. Sarah looked up at him. I'm not afraid of you, you know. I'm afraid of the things this place will try to do to you. A rare softness crossed his face. You fear for me. I do. He brought a hand to her cheek, callous but careful. Then I am yours to protect as you are mine. He kissed her slowly, deeply, as if trying to memorize the feeling of her lips. It was fierce, intense, but tender in a way she never thought a warrior like him could be. He brought her gently up to their room and laid her down on the soft bed. He made love to her gently for hours, feeling a pent-up ecstasy and gentle touches that neither had ever experienced. Their passion crested like waves, flowing more intense. They reached multiple climaxes, both gave one another. Even Conquest in his 7,000 years of life had never experienced such tenderness. He wasn't alone, finally, after millenniums epochs it seemed. When they parted, Sarah whispered, what happens if they're right, if you being here makes everything worse? Conquest rested his forehead against hers. Then I will fight the entire night itself, and I will win. The night's gambit. Conquest ducked beneath the splintered doorway of Colony House. Though ducked was generous, his 7-foot Viltrumite frame still scraped the beam. The white of his uniform was scuffed with dust from the forest road, and his single eye surveyed the room with the intensity of a predator forced into captivity. Fatima looked up from the dining table where she was setting out mismatched chess pieces. You're early, she said, smiling with that calm, patient steadiness she carried even in this impossible town. I grow bored, Conquest replied. There is no sky here fit for flight. His scarred face twitched. You said you would teach me this earth game today. Fatima gestured for him to sit. The oversized chair complained but held. Chess isn't just a game, she said. It's about trust, strategy, understanding the person across from you. Conquest snorted. Trust is for the weak. Is it? She placed a white pawn before him. This little piece depends on you. It goes forward blindly, believing you won't throw it away for nothing. He studied the board, the pieces, and finally her. Strange, you humans build loyalty from symbols. We build it from choice, Fatima corrected softly. Conquest made his first move, a reckless sweep of a knight that nearly upended half the board. She steadied his hand, gently guiding it into a legal square. You need to be softer, she said. That word again, he frowned. Sarah said it too. Then you're hearing it for a reason. Conquest leaned back, clearly conflicted. She is my mate possibly, but she is fragile, delicate. I could crush her hand by accident. Fatima hid a smile. Maybe stop trying to hold her like she's a battle trophy, try listening, and just maybe don't start conversations with threats. That was a warning, Conquest said, offended. Fatima laughed, surprising him. Then she moved her bishop, capturing his knight with elegant precision. See, she said, sometimes you win not by overpowering someone but by understanding them. Conquest stared at the fallen knight. You have defeated a Viltrumite general. I beat you at chess, she corrected. There's a difference. He considered this, then nodded. Then teach me to understand, Sarah, humans, this place. I cannot conquer a world I do not comprehend. Fatima met his eye with warmth rather than fear. Maybe you don't need to conquer anything. Maybe you're here to learn something else. Outside, the wind rattled the shutters, this cursed town reminding them both where they were trapped. But inside Colony House, something shifted in the great warrior's expression. Not weakness, not surrender. Just the beginning of trust. Again, Conquest said, set up the pieces, I will learn. Fatima reset the board, smiling. Good, because Sarah will appreciate the new you. Randall Kirkland had always believed two things. People were dangerous. Strangers were worse. And nothing was more of a stranger than the towering, scarred, one-eyed Viltrumite now living among them. Conquest. Randall watched him from behind the shed at the edge of town, fingers tight around a quarter stick of dynamite he'd found in a long-forgotten toolbox. Maybe it wouldn't kill the alien brute, but maybe it would slow him down, maybe enough to prove that Randall wasn't the one who needed protecting. Don't do it, Elgin said behind him, voice low, tense. He's not the monsters, and he'll tear you apart if you try something stupid. Randall smirked. You scared of him? I'm scared for you, Elgin replied. But Randall was already lighting the fuse. Conquest didn't even flinch when the explosive went off at his feet. Smoke rose, dirt splattered, the explosion hid his towering frame. Smoke hid him from view and Randall tensed hopeful. However, Conquest strolled out of the crater, his white uniform barely smudged. He looked down, then up. Then straight at Randall. Elgin groaned, You're dead. Conquest didn't rush, he didn't raise a fist. He simply walked toward Randall like someone strolling across a quiet morning field. Randall backed up until he hit the shed wall. Human fireworks, Conquest rumbled. You hope to harm me. I hope to warn everyone about you, Randall spat. You're worse than the freaks in the woods. Conquest studied him with his single cold eye. Something unreadable passed through his expression, annoyance perhaps, or pity. Then he turned away. Come. What? You owe me a drink. Bartender Tom didn't ask questions when Conquest placed 2 glasses and a half-full bottle on the counter. Randall sat stiffly across from the Viltrumite, trying to act like he wasn't shaking. Conquest poured. The whiskey burned, which somehow made the moment feel normal. 2 men sharing something rough, bitter, and grounding. You misunderstand me, Conquest said, swirling his glass. I am not your enemy unless you insist upon it. Randall snorted. You look like you chew enemies for breakfast. I do not eat humans, Conquest replied calmly, usually. Randall wasn't sure that was a joke. They drank in silence for a moment. Then Randall, unable to help himself, leaned back and sneered. So how's your little girlfriend doing? Sarah, right, must be tough dating someone who... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Conquest set his glass down with deliberate care. The air tightened, like gravity itself had shifted. Choose your next words carefully, he warned. But Randall never did know when to shut up. You two make a cute pair, blind leading the blind, well, one-eyed leading the... Conquest moved. Not with rage, not with a shout, just a single, decisive action, swift and overwhelming. He seized Randall by the head, lifting him off the bar stool as easily as lifting a cup. Strength, Conquest said softly, is not licensed to torment. There was a heavy final crack. No gore, no spectacle, just the terrible, abrupt stillness of something ending. Randall's body went limp, eyes staring blankly at nothing. Conquest lowered what remained of him gently to the floor, almost respectful. Tom exhaled shakily from behind the bar, hands trembling. Elgin, who had followed them inside but stayed quiet, swallowed hard. Conquest stepped back, eye narrowed with grim disappointment. He attacked without thought, spoke without thought, lived without thought. He looked at the whiskey glass still sitting untouched on the counter. I offered him peace, he said quietly. He chose insult instead. Without another word, Conquest walked out into the deepening dusk. Elgin watched him go, shivering, not from fear of the man, but from fear of what kind of world created someone like him. He had experienced interacting with monsters quite regularly these days. Elgin absently put his hand over his own missing eye socket covered by a simple eye patch. This was a gift from Sarah's torture method months ago when Elgin wouldn't tell them where he had hidden Fatima. Elgin learned a valuable lesson that Randall hadn't. There was a fine line between cruelty and retribution. And what kind of town needed him? The consequence of monsters. Sarah found Conquest standing alone behind the bar, staring at the trees that swallowed the horizon. The dusk light sharpened the scars on his face, making him look half-carved from stone. She didn't need to ask what happened. Elgin had already blurted it out in 3 shaky sentences, but hearing it wasn't the same as facing it. Conquest, she said quietly. He didn't turn around. You are going to tell me I was wrong. Sarah stepped closer, crossing her arms against the chill. No, I'm going to tell you the truth. He turned at that slowly, like he wasn't sure he deserved to. Randall was dangerous, she said. He acted first, thought never, and put everyone at risk. People were afraid of him even before you came here. Conquest's single eye narrowed, and so his life was nothing to mourn. No, Sarah said firmly, but his death will not break the town. A long silence stretched between them. You didn't hunt him, she continued. You didn't plan it, he pushed you hard, and he didn't care who he hurt. Conquest looked away. I gave him choice, a chance for peace. That is more than I give most adversaries. There's the part that scares people, she said. You talk about killing the way others talk about chores. Conquest didn't flinch. It is the way of my kind. Sarah stepped in front of him. You're not with your kind anymore. That seemed to hit him more deeply than anything else. The next morning the town buzzed with quiet, nervous conversation. People didn't raise their voices, they didn't need to. News traveled fast even when spoken in whispers. Randall's gone. Conquest did it. Well, Randall was a problem. He tried to blow up the new guy. Of course it ended badly. Honestly, better him than someone innocent. There was no celebration, no grief either, just a collective exhale like a splinter had been pulled from the town's side. Boyd was the only one who approached Conquest directly, stood before him like someone facing a volatile storm rather than a criminal. I'm not thanking you, Boyd said, and I'm not condemning you. Conquest nodded once. But understand this, in this town we survive by rules, not by power. If you're staying, you follow those rules. Conquest's expression didn't change. Your rules are restrictive. That's how we stay alive. Conquest folded his arms. I will consider this. It wasn't an agreement, but it wasn't a refusal. In From, that counted as progress. That evening Sarah found him again, this time on the porch of Colony House, sitting alone like a sentinel who didn't need sleep. Did you think I would leave you? Conquest asked without looking up. Did you think I want you to? She countered. He finally turned toward her, and there was something almost vulnerable in that scarred face. I am trying, he said, to be less of what I was, more of what you need. Sarah sat beside him, close enough for her shoulder to touch his arm. It was like leaning against a warm, living wall. I don't need you to be gentle all the time, she said, just thoughtful. Choose strength when it protects, not when it punishes. Conquest considered that. It is difficult. I know, she said, placing a hand on his, but you're learning. That's enough for now. He looked down at her hand, small, fragile, trusting, resting on his own. For the first time since arriving in the cursed town, Conquest allowed himself to feel something unfamiliar. Not weakness, not shame, just responsibility. I will try, he repeated. And in a place where monsters wore human smiles and nightfall meant death, trying was more than most people managed. The final warning. As dawn broke, Ethan approached again, pale, panting. I had another vision. They said something new. Sarah held Conquest's hand tighter. Ethan read from his notebook. Love bends the bars of the cage. Love breaks the locks. Love opens the door. Jade's eyes widened. They're saying your feelings for Sarah could open something. Conquest turned toward the forest. Something ancient was watching him, waiting. Sarah whispered, are we going to survive this? Conquest lifted her chin gently. Yes, together. And for the first time since arriving in the town, he looked genuinely unsure. Not of himself, but of what this place would try to do to the woman he loved. A visitor in the night, part IV. Something in the trees has learned Conquest's name. Night fell too quickly. Sarah and Conquest hadn't left each other's side since Ethan's warning. The town was on edge. Even the birds seemed to fall silent during the day. And then, for the first time since he arrived, Conquest heard something that unnerved him. A heartbeat in the trees. Not a monster's heartbeat. A human one. The imposter. Kenny was the first to notice it. He was patrolling outside Colony House when he saw someone moving toward him, silhouette familiar, posture relaxed as if strolling toward the diner. Kenny, the figure called softly. Kenny stopped in his tracks. That was Ethan's voice. But Ethan was sleeping at the Matthews house. Hey, the figure said, stepping into the moonlight. It was Ethan. Or something wearing his shape. Its smile was too wide, its eyes were wrong, and when it spoke again, Kenny felt his skin crawl. Is Sarah home? We want to talk to her. Kenny ran. He didn't look back until he reached the center of town. And by then, the creature wasn't following him. It was moving toward Sarah's house. The thing that knocked. Sarah and Conquest were on the porch when someone knocked on the door behind them. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Sarah froze. Conquest's hand tightened on her waist. Sarah, the voice was soft, familiar. It's Ethan, she whispered. He sounds. But Conquest shook his head. That is not the boy. The door creaked, a small hand pushed it open. Ethan stood there, smiling strangely. Sarah, not Ethan, said gently, "Can we come in? We're scared." Conquest stepped between them, eyes glowing. "Leave her." Not Ethan's smile sharpened. "Or what? You'll protect her, you'll save everyone, you think you're special here." Conquest's gaze hardened. "I know I am." The creature's head twitched, then it whispered. "Not for long." Before Conquest could strike, the thing melted backward into the porch hallway like a shadow darting into the darkness, gone. Sarah grabbed his arm. "They're changing, they're copying us more clearly." "They fear losing," Conquest growled, "which means I am close to something." Sarah trembled. "Or they're close to something." Tabith's vision. Tabitha came running into the diner the next morning, shaking so violently Boyd dropped a stack of plates just to get to her. "I saw it," she cried. "I saw what they're trying to do." Conquest rose from his seat. "Speak." Tabitha pointed at him. "They're trying to split you two apart." Sarah's breath caught. "Why?" "Because when you're together," Tabitha whispered, "you break their rules, you bend this place, you weaken it." Jade muttered, "So they're scared of love now, great." But Tabitha wasn't done. "There's more. I saw something inside the trees, not a person, a doorway, and through it I saw someone falling from the sky." She looked at Conquest. "You?" Conquest frowned. "A memory." "No," Tabitha corrected. "A loop, a pattern. They didn't drag you here, something else did, something behind the monsters." Sarah reached for Conquest's hand. "Something bigger." Conquest closed his eyes. He didn't know. And he hated not knowing. At dusk, the woods whisper. Julie never meant to look him in the eye. This was the monster that killed Randall. Randall the jerk, Randall the snarky, mean-spirited, misunderstood anti-hero. Still, with all that, he was her friend in a way. They had spent a kinship in their horrors. She had only stepped onto the porch of Colony House to get a breath, to clear her head, to pretend for one moment that this town wasn't swallowing them whole. But then he turned toward her, 7 feet of battered muscle framed in the twilight, white uniform tight across his chest, one eye glinting like a blade in the half-light. Conquest. Even standing still, he looked like a storm. Julie's breath hitched, her pulse launched into a sprint before her feet even touched the ground. She ran. The woods were already sinking into dusk, that uneasy hour where shadows sharpened and the quiet grew too heavy. Branches whipped her arms as she fled, heart hammering, her father's warnings pounding in her mind. "Don't run into the forest at night, don't run, don't." But fear didn't listen to rules. Behind her, the deep, resonant voice called out. "Girl, stop, you are in danger." She only ran faster. Her lungs burned by the time she reached the old toppled RV, its metal belly exposed like a rusted carcass. She crawled inside, squeezing through a jagged gap, trying to bury herself in the darkness. She didn't hear the first footsteps. She heard the giggle. A woman's voice drifted outside, sweet, lilting, wrong. "Julie, you don't have to hide." Another voice joined it, cheerful, friendly, familiar in shape but hollow in tone. "Come out, dear, we just want to talk." Julie clamped a hand over her mouth, trembling. The forest went quiet again. And then a roar split the air. Conquest. The RV shook as something massive crashed against it. Metal groaned, dirt scattered, and through the cracks Julie glimpsed a blur of white and monstrous strength. Conquest moved like a falling star, impossibly fast, grabbing one of the smiling figures by the throat. "You wear human faces," he growled, "but you are not human." The creature hissed, its grin stretching too wide. The impact when he slammed it into a tree, which splintered into fragments, as the dismembered monster caught the impact of the flying Viltrumite's powerful atk. Another monster lunged at his back, but Conquest pivoted, catching it mid-leap and hurling it into the clearing. Bones cracked. The thing lying there still smiled as it died. Julie shut her eyes as more sounds erupted, tearing, pounding, the awful wetness of violence she didn't want to witness. But within moments the forest fell silent again. Not safe, never safe, but emptied. "Julie." The voice was softer now. She opened her eyes to see the massive silhouette crouched at the RV's entrance. He didn't reach in, he only waited. "I was not hunting you," he said. "I was worried." Julie hesitated before crawling toward him, her breath shaky. "Why?" she whispered. "You ran toward the woods at dusk." He lowered his head, his single eye steady, unthreatening for the first time. Only a fool or someone frightened does that. I did not think you were a fool. She swallowed, embarrassed. You scared me. I scare many. His voice held no pride, only truth, but I do not harm those I protect. Julie finally let him pull her out, gently, impossibly gently for someone built like a war god. His hand enveloped hers like a steel wall, learning tenderness. Were there many of those things? She asked. He looked toward the darkening trees. Yes, many of those predators playing dress-up. Will they come back? Yes, he stood towering above her like a guardian statue, but I will be here. For the first time since running, Julie felt her heartbeat slow. He wasn't her enemy. Just a terrifying ally in a terrifying place. Come, Conquest said, motioning her toward the faint lights of town, before true night arrives. Julie nodded and walked beside him. Not because she trusted him fully, but because sometimes, in this cursed place, safety came in the shape of a monster who chose to stand between you and the others. So night that wouldn't end. Night came again, and didn't lift. The town woke to endless twilight, a dim, bruise-colored sky with no sun. Hours, Boyd muttered, checking his watch. It's been hours, it should have changed. Donna whispered, it's like the world is stuck. Fatima gasped, what do we do? Conquest stood in the road, staring upward. The sky pulsed faintly like breathing. Sarah, he said quietly, stay with me. She nodded, always. That was when the voices began. Not from the woods. From the sky. Conquest, they whispered, chorus layered and wrong. You do not belong here, you open what must stay closed. Your love unsettles the door. The ground trembled, the sky flickered. Shapes moved within the clouds, tall, thin silhouettes with too many joints bending the wrong way. Sarah clutched his arm, shaking. What are those? Conquest's voice was low. A hierarchy. Jade stepped back. The monsters have masters. Conquest didn't take his eyes off the sky. Yes, the choice. The sky beings whispered again. Release her, break her bond, or we break your world. Conquest stepped forward, fire burning beneath his skin. If you touch her, he snarled, I will tear your realm apart. The sky trembled. Sarah grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. Don't let them twist this. I'm not afraid of you, I'm afraid of losing you. You will not lose me, his forehead pressed to hers, and I will not lose you. The sky shrieked. A crack opened above the forest, a jagged tier of light and shadow. Wind whipped through the town, howling like a living thing. Ethan screamed, it's the door, it's opening. The monsters poured from the tree line, not smiling now, racing, desperate, terrified of whatever was emerging from the sky. Conquest wrapped his arms around Sarah. Brace yourself. What is it? She cried. The beginning, Conquest said quietly. And the end. Part V. The horror escalates, the sky creatures arrive, and Conquest's connection with Sarah deepens in ways neither of them could have predicted. A visitor in the night, Part V. The sky splits, the door opens, and the town isn't the same anymore. The sky rumbled like something breathing inside a storm. Everyone stood frozen, Boyd clutching a frying pan, Jade gripping a shotgun she knew wouldn't matter, Tabitha trembling like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. The crack in the sky widened, and something stepped through. What descended? The creature that dropped from the sky wasn't like the night monsters. It was taller, at least 8 feet, and resembled the Ragnar leathery reptilian-looking flesh-spiked dark burgundy flesh, but warped ribbons of darkness twisting around its muscular frame, a core of burning white eyes. Conquest groaned in recognition of this dark realm's trap. Its giant fanged mouth looked closed, but it spoke anyway. To Conquest, you are the fracture. Its voice scraped across every surface, rattling windows and bones. Your presence corrupts the pattern. Conquest stepped forward, pulling Sarah behind him. I do not follow your pattern. The creature tilted its head, its body cracking in unnatural angles. Yet she binds you. And its eyes turned toward Sarah. The world blurred, Conquest moved faster than sight. His arm wrapped around Sarah, pulling her against him as he launched forward, slamming the creature through the street. The ground split, dust exploded. But the creature didn't die. It laughed, without lungs, without sound, without anything human. Sarah watched in horror as the creature reformed millimeters from Conquest's face. This realm was not made for you. Your strength breaks our limits. Your love breaks our laws. Conquest's eyes glowed like twin suns. Then your laws deserve breaking. Tabitha sees too much. While Conquest fought the Scything, Tabitha collapsed to her knees. Visions slammed into her, images, colors, impossible shapes. Get her back, Jade shouted, shaking her. Tabitha, look at me. But Tabitha's eyes were rolled upward. I see the door, she whispered. Jade went cold. What door? The one Conquest opened just by loving her. Her voice trembled violently. The town wasn't designed for someone like him. It bends, it cracks, it tries to repair itself but can't, not with them bonded. Boyd and Fatima knelt beside her. Tabitha, breathe, what happens if it breaks? Tabitha looked up, and her voice wasn't her own. The outside comes in, and the inside gets out. Sarah's impossible choice. The creature hurled Conquest through a building. Wood shattered, dust filled the air. Sarah ran toward him, ignoring everyone shouting at her to stop. He rose slowly, bleeding real dark blood, weakness he rarely showed. She cupped his face. Conquest, are you okay? He breathed harshly. It is adapting, learning, dangerous. Then let's run, Sarah whispered. We can hide. Conquest shook his head. I do not run, and neither do you. The creature floated above them, its many eyes blinking independently. Your bond is an aberration, your affection is a threat, your existence together tears the boundary. Conquest snarled, stepping in front of Sarah completely. Then it will tear. Sarah grabbed his wrist. Don't let it take you from me. He looked at her, softening with something too fierce to be tenderness alone. It cannot. His hand slid to her jaw, thumb brushing her cheek with impossible gentleness. I will always return to you. But the creature responded with a venomous hum. Only if she chooses. Sarah froze. What? The sky split wider, light pulsing like a heartbeat. The door opens only when the heart breaks. The fracture must be sealed. One of you must let go. Conquest's body tensed. Sarah's breath hitched. Let go of him, of her, of their bond. Don't listen to it, Conquest growled. They lie. But the creature's eyes all turned toward Sarah. You love him. This corrupts the town. Your love is the weapon we fear. Sarah stepped back, trembling. Conquest reached for her hand. Sarah. No, she whispered, tears gathering. I won't let them use me to hurt you. But Conquest tightened his grip. You are not a weapon, you are my anchor, you keep me human. Conquest, her voice broke. What if I'm the reason you'll die here? He leaned closer, forehead pressing to hers, the world roaring around them. Then I will die with my choice made. The creature strikes. The creature lunged. Light exploded. Jade fired his shotgun uselessly. Boyd swung a skillet. Kenny and Donna dragged Ethan behind cover. Fatima hurled a shovel that clinked off its diamond-hard reptilian-like hide. Tabitha screamed that the door was opening. Sarah tried to shield Conquest with her body. He threw himself in front of her. But the creature's corded, muscled long arms struck him straight in the chest. He pounded the creature with a barrage of fists that sounded like sonic booms and warped the very air around the two behemoths. Conquest launched an uppercut punch that impaled the chest of the creature, and then flung it skyward until it was dart, and it plummeted to the street, disintegrating like gravel. He grinned at Sarah. He staggered. Then he fell. Sarah screamed his name. The sky cracked open completely. And something stepped out. Something worse than the first creature. Something ancient. Something that whispered directly into Sarah's mind. Choose. Here is Part VI, Conquest bleeding, the ancient sky being emerging, and Sarah forced into a choice that could shatter the town or save it. A visitor in the night, Part VI. Choose. Conquest lay in the dirt, blood pooling beneath him dark and thick, like human blood. Sarah fell to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she pressed them to his wound. It pulsed against her palms like a fading heartbeat. Conquest, Conquest, look at me, she begged. Don't you dare close your eyes. He tried to sit up, he couldn't. Instead, he lifted a trembling hand to her cheek. Sarah, he rasped, I am not easy to kill. but his voice was weaker than she'd ever heard. Jade ran to them, shotgun slung across his back. "Sarah, we need to move. That thing, whatever it is, it's not waiting." Sarah didn't look away from Conquest. "Jade, I'm not leaving him. You might not have a choice." What came from the door? The second creature descended like a falling shadow from the rip in the sky. This one had a shape, not quite humanoid, more like a tall figure draped in darkness, limbs too long, each movement accompanied by a whispering chorus. A crown of broken light hovered above its head. When it spoke, the ground vibrated. The fracture must be repaired. Ethan, hiding behind Kenny, covered his ears. "They're inside my head," he whispered. "It's talking to everybody." No. Sarah realized the truth. It was talking to two people, her and Conquest. The creature's many voices layered in her skull. "Your bond disrupts the design. Your defiance invites collapse. Only one path restores balance." Conquest gritted his teeth, struggling to rise. "Sarah," he groaned, "don't listen." The creature cut him off. "You must choose, love him or save him." Sarah's mind blanked, the words repeated until they felt like a heartbeat. "What does that mean?" she whispered. The creature extended a hand made of shadow. "If you keep him, the boundary shatters, he will burn and all of you will follow. If you let him go, the door closes, he will vanish from this place, alive but lost to you." Conquest suddenly snarled, forcing himself onto one knee. "Sarah, no." He was shaking violently. Sarah threw her arms around him so he wouldn't collapse again. "You don't get to choose for me," she cried. But his fingers dug into her arm, desperation, not control. "I do choose," Conquest said. "I choose you, I stay with you." The creature hissed. "Love makes you weak." Conquest laughed, bloody ragged. "My love makes me angry, and my anger makes me strong." The creature's shape flickered, agitated. "Then she will destroy you." Sarah felt her heart break into something sharp. "Stop," she screamed. "Stop saying this, he is not a threat to us." The creature tilted its head. "He is a threat to everything." The town begins to crack. The ground split open in long fractures, spreading outward from the center of town. Buildings shook, glass shattered, trees bent inward like they were bowing or being pulled. Kenny yelled, "We need to move the kids, now." Donna grabbed Ethan by the collar, dragging him toward Colony House. Boyd tried to help Jade carry injured townsfolk. Fatima and Julie screamed to the townsfolk to get them moving. The street was chaos. But no one could take their eyes off the center, where Sarah held Conquest, where the creature stood over them like a judge. "His confession." Sarah, Conquest whispered, cupping her face with a trembling hand. His thumb brushed her tears. "I would let this world burn before I let it take you." Her breath hitched, her heart twisted painfully. "Conquest, do not save me," he whispered. "Choose us." She shook her head violently. "No, no, I won't lose you. I won't let them rip you away." "Sarah, you don't get to die for me." His eyes softened, a rare emotion flickering in the irises that glowed like dying suns. "Then live for me." Her choice. The creature hovered closer. "Decide." The fractures in the ground spread, glowing with a pale light. The boundary of the town flickered like a failing electrical circuit. Tabitha screamed from across the street. "Sarah, whatever you choose, choose fast." Sarah looked down at Conquest, the warrior who could tear planets apart, now barely breathing. The man who'd terrify gods, but held her as if she were the only thing that mattered. "Sarah," he whispered again, "my love." Her tears fell on his armor. She made her choice. She stood, faced the creature, lifted her chin, and screamed with every ounce of pain in her chest. "I choose him." The consequence. The world exploded with light. But not from the sky creature. From Sarah. White cracked outward from her chest like spreading lightning, rushing along the fractures in the earth. The creature recoiled, its crown flickering. Conquest stared up at her in shock. The townspeople gasped. Tabitha whispered, "She's changing the pattern." The creature convulsed. "Impossible, impossible, impossible." The light swarmed around Sarah and Conquest, wrapping them in a sphere that pulsed like a living heart. The creature shrieked. The sky tore wider, and the world was swallowed in blinding white, until nothing remained but Sarah's voice. Conquest, hold on to me. Here is part VII, the aftermath of Sarah's choice, the light she unleashed, the shifting horror, and what becomes of her in Conquest. A visitor in the night, part VII. Inside the light, something wakes. The world dissolved into white. Not bright, empty. No sky, no ground, no sound. Just Sarah and Conquest suspended in a weightless, endless void. Her hand gripped his armor with desperate strength. His blood still smeared her fingers. His breathing came in ragged pulls. Conquest, stay with me, she whispered, please. He opened one eye, the golden glow flickering. I'm here. His voice sounded hollow, swallowed by the nothingness around them. Sarah looked around in terror. Where are we? Conquest frowned weakly. A place between, a pocket created by your choice. By her. She shook her head. I didn't do anything. You did, he rasped. Sarah, you broke their rule, you broke their order. The white void trembled as if reacting to his words. He lifted a trembling hand, brushing her cheek. Your love changed the town, the pattern responded. Her heart twisted. I don't understand. You don't need to, Conquest whispered, because I do, and I know this. He leaned closer, forehead touching hers. You saved me. Sarah's breath caught. But before she could speak, the void rippled. And the creature appeared. The white creature. It floated toward them, no longer crowned with broken light. Here in the void it looked smaller, thinner, weaker. Its voice was distorted. This is not your domain. Conquest snarled, then leave. The creature's many eyes blinked in unison at Sarah. You should not have chosen, you were meant to release him. Sarah's nails dug into Conquest's arm. No, she spat, I chose him, I won't take it back. The creature flickered, glitching like a broken projection. Your choice has corrupted the door, your bond derails the cycle, you are rewriting a closed system. Sarah stepped forward. The void seemed to pulse around her, as if responding to her heartbeat. Then maybe your system should break. The creature recoiled. Conquest stared at her, not with fear but awe. Back in the town. Outside the void, the townsfolk endured chaos. The sky rip slowly began collapsing inward. Jade shielded Ethan with his body. Kenny dragged Donna toward the church. Fatima and Julie had gotten most of the townfolk to Colony House with help from Ellis and a few vehicles. Boyd held Tabitha upright as she convulsed from another vision. It's her, Tabitha gasped. Sarah's fighting it, she's changing things. Is Conquest doing it? Boyd asked. No, Tabitha whispered, eyes wide, she is. The creature's fear. Back in the void, the creature lunged at Sarah. Conquest tackled it midair. They crashed into nothingness, the white space warping around them. The creature's limbs wrapped around Conquest, but he tore them apart with a furious roar. No one touches her. The void cracked with the force of his voice, like glass under strain. Sarah reached for him, Conquest. The creature shrieked, flailing as its form dissolved and reformed chaotically. Unacceptable, the human is not permitted to alter the structure. The human is not permitted. Sarah's eyes narrowed. She stepped forward, anger and terror twisting together into something sharp. Stop calling me that. The void trembled. Her voice became thunder. She has a name. The creature froze. Conquest looked at her like she was a force of nature. Sarah raised her voice again, stronger this time. My name is Sarah, and you do not get to choose my fate or his. The void erupted in cracking waves of power. Light burst outward. The creature screamed, and it shattered. Pieces of its form scattered like broken shadows into the white nothingness. Then silence. Only Sarah and Conquest remained. The collapse. The void began to crumble. Sarah caught Conquest as he staggered. Is it over? She whispered. Conquest coughed, leaning heavily into her. For now, but the world we knew is changing. The void cracked beneath them, a massive fissure of darkness spreading. Sarah held him tightly. I won't lose you. His breath brushed her ear. You won't. They fell. Through light, through shadow, through a world rearranging itself. Return. They landed hard on solid ground. Sarah gasped, air rushing back into her lungs. Birdsong echoed faintly, morning light filtered through the trees. Jade rushed toward them. Sarah, Conquest, you're alive. Ethan picked behind him. You're glowing. What? Sarah blinked. Conquest looked at her, really looked, and for a moment he forgot his wounds. Her skin shimmered faintly, like light lived beneath it. Sarah, he whispered, what have you become? She touched his cheek, her fingers warm and bright against his skin. I don't know, she whispered, but if it means I can protect you, I don't care. Conquest pulled her into his arms. You saved me, he murmured. You changed this world. No one's ever done that, not even I. Behind them, the town's boundary flickered, not broken, not healed, but rewritten. The creatures in the trees watched silently. Afraid. The sky was intact again. But different. The rules had changed. And so had he. 4 months later. A visitor in the night, Part IX. The unborn child changes the rules of the world. The creature of metal and bone rose from the crack beneath the town, its limbs scraping against the earth like rusted knives. Conquest stood in front of Sarah, shoulders squared, his stance wide and feral. She felt his energy ripple outward like heat from a furnace vibrating the air. But despite his strength and her new shimmering light, Sarah's hand drifted to her abdomen. The baby. Their baby. Her breath caught as a flutter rippled beneath her palm. She froze. Conquest. He heard the change in her voice. He turned immediately, concern blazing across his expression. Sarah, what is it? She grabbed his hand and pressed it against her stomach. And there, unmistakable. A pulse. Not her heartbeat, not his. A third rhythm, steady and strong. Conquest went still. No warrior, no monster slayer, no conqueror. Just a man and a father feeling his child move for the first time. His voice quavered. He's growing fast. Sarah nodded, tears gathering. I know. She looked up at him, fear and wonder mixing on her face. I can feel him, stronger every hour. It's like he's waking up. Conquest gently cupped her face. You are not alone, Sarah. He kissed her, slow and urgent, as if anchoring himself to her, to them. But the creature's shriek shattered the moment. The unborn belongs to us. A new protective instinct. Conquest didn't rush toward the creature like the others expected. Instead, he turned his back to it, shielding Sarah completely with his hulking muscular body. Stay behind me, he commanded gently, the edge of panic coloring his voice. Sarah nodded, gripping the back of his armor, grounding him. But then her fingers glowed, and not just her fingers. Her entire palm lit up where it touched him. The light traveled over his armor like veins of living power. Sarah, Conquest whispered, shocked, your energy. It reacts to him, she breathed, pressing her palm harder against her belly. To our son, I think he's protecting us. Conquest stared at her in awe. Then the creature lunged. The defense from within. Conquest moved to intercept, but something beat him to it. A blast of white gold energy erupted outward from Sarah's stomach, hurling the creature backward through a row of trees. The impact sent shockwaves through the ground. Everyone froze. Holy, Boyd whispered, eyes wide. That came from the baby, Jade said, voice trembling. Sarah gasped, clutching her stomach. That wasn't me, I didn't do anything. Conquest gently steadied her. He didn't look afraid. He looked proud. He is Viltrumite, Conquest whispered, brushing hair from her face, and more. His power comes from both of us, and from the new pattern you created. This place changes the very physiology of both a species. The creature slowly rose, bones cracking into new shapes. The unborn must not live. Conquest's expression went cold. You will not touch my family. A father unleashed. Conquest launched forward. It wasn't a fight, it was slaughter. The creature swung a blade-like arm. Conquest shattered it with his bare hand. The creature ripped open the ground. Conquest grabbed it by its spine-like appendage and slammed it down so hard the earth split further. Even the trays seemed to recoil. Sarah stumbled backward, instinctively shielding her stomach. Jade grabbed her arm. "Sarah, he's losing it, he's going full Viltrumite." "Let him," Sarah whispered, eyes fixed on Conquest. He was a blur of brutality and precision. And every time the creature tried to crawl towards Sarah, Conquest tore it apart again. Finally, he seized the creature's skull, lifting it above his head. "You threatened my mate," he growled. The forest shook. "You threatened my child." The sky crackled with white veins. And then, with a roar that sounded like a war ending, he crushed the creature's skull in his fists. It dissolved into dust. Silence fell heavy. The consequence of power. Conquest staggered back, breathing hard. He was covered in black ash, bruises and cuts that healed more slowly than before. Sarah rushed to him, but he waved her off gently. "No, don't strain yourself." She ignored him, touching his cheek. They looked at each other, two survivors carved from chaos and love. "I felt him," Sarah whispered, "our son." Conquest's eyes softened with a mixture of fear and devotion rarely seen in him. "He is strong," he said, "too strong for this place, it is unstable around him." Sarah's breath trembled. "Is he hurting me?" Conquest cupped her face again, forehead touching hers. "No, he is protecting you, but the town, it will react." As if on cue, the boundary trembled like a soap bubble ready to burst. Tabitha staggered forward, eyes white with another vision. "It's changing again," she croaked. "The pattern is rewriting itself around Sarah and the child." Sarah swallowed hard. "What happens next?" Tabitha's voice broke. "It depends on whether the town decides he is a savior or a threat." Conquest pulled Sarah close, pressing her against his chest, as if shielding her from the very universe. His voice was low, deadly final. "If this town wants to threaten my family again." His eyes glinted intensely. "Then I will rewrite it myself." A visitor in the night, Part X. A child not meant for this world begins to shape it. 3 days passed since the creature of metal and bone crawled from the earth. 3 days since Conquest killed it. 3 days since Sarah first felt their child move. But everything changed on the 4th day. Acceleration. Sarah woke before dawn with a gasp. Not from fear, from pressure. She rolled to her side in the dark, breath hitching, her hand pressed to her abdomen. It was larger. Not impossibly huge, but undeniably changed. The pregnancy had advanced weeks in a single night. Conquest jolted awake the moment her breath hitched. "Sarah." His hand brushed her back, warm and steady, and then slid to her stomach. He froze. "By the stars, he's growing." Sarah swallowed hard. "Is that normal?" "For a Viltrumite child," Conquest breathed out slowly, "it means he's strong." She turned to him, eyes wide with fear and awe. "But what if he's too strong?" Conquest held her face gently between his hands. "Sarah, when Viltrumites grow in the womb, they adapt. They do not harm their mother." G then more quietly, "But none have ever been like him." She leaned into him, shaking. "Conquest, I don't want to die." His grip tightened as if he could anchor her to life itself. "I won't let that happen." A new power, not Sarah's. Later that day, the nightmare truth revealed itself. Sarah walked outside to get water from the well. Kenny insisted she avoid stress, and Jade had been hovering non-stop. But as Sarah walked across the clearing, her foot caught on a root. She stumbled. Before she hit the ground, something caught her. Not someone, something. A shimmer of golden force held her suspended, weightless, and then gently set her upright. Sarah stared, breathless. "That wasn't me," she whispered. Conquest landed beside her, eyes wide with fear. "Sarah, your aura." "No," she said, "it wasn't me." Conquest froze. He placed a hand on her belly. The air crackled with faint, golden energy. He whispered, "He caught you." Sarah exhaled shakily. "He saved me." "Yes," Conquest's voice trembled. "He's awake, aware, protecting you instinctively." Sarah pressed both hands to her belly. Then gasped. Not from fear. From movement. A small, rhythmic pressure, like a hand pushing back against hers. "Oh God," she whispered, "he hears us." Conquest's breath caught. He slowly knelt and pressed his ear to her stomach. "Little warrior," he murmured, "you feel your mother's fear." Sarah blinked fast, overwhelmed by emotion. "And your father's," he added softly. She stroked his hair, her voice cracking. "I think he feels love." Conquest looked up at her, something raw in his expression. "I have conquered worlds," he whispered, "but you too, you undo me." The forest reacts. That night the monsters didn't come to the windows. They assembled at the edge of the woods. Lines and lines of them, silent still. Watching Sarah, but not attacking, not smiling. Then they all dropped to their knees. One by one. Jade nearly screamed, "What are they doing?" Boyd stepped forward with his gun, its submission. Conquest stood protectively in front of Sarah. "No," he said quietly, "it's fear." The creatures stared at Sarah's belly. Ethan whispered, "They're bowing to the baby." Suddenly, one creature pointed a bone-white finger at her stomach. "The UNMAKERCOMES." Conquest moved so fast the air shook. "Say that again," he growled, eyes burning. "I dare you." The creature bowed its head lower. "The UNMAKER, the child of the fracture, the half-star, the end and the beginning." Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. She clutched Conquest's arm. "What are they talking about?" Conquest didn't answer. He didn't know. The prophecy revealed. Tabitha stumbled from the house, eyes rolled white, voice not her own. A vision seized her. She pointed directly at Sarah's stomach. "He will choose the fate of every soul in this place, and every creature beyond it." Sarah's eyes widened. "Choose what?" Tabitha's voice cracked like splitting stone. "Whether this world lives or ends." Conquest instantly wrapped his arms around Sarah, shielding her. "No," he hissed, "no one touches her, no one touches him." But Tabitha continued, voice echoing with something ancient. "The child is half Viltrumite, half rebirth, born of love that fractured the pattern." The sky rippled overhead. "And when the moment comes, he will either seal the door forever." Sarah's breath caught, "or tear it open wide enough for everything that hunts the dark to spill through." Conquest's expression turned murderous. "Our son is not their pawn." Tabitha pointed at Sarah. "Then you must guide him." Sarah swallowed hard. "How?" Tabitha whispered. "Survive long enough to meet him." A shift inside Sarah. That night Sarah lay awake, hand on her stomach. The baby shifted beneath her skin, powerful and warm. Conquest lay beside her, one arm draped protectively over her waist. "Conquest," Sarah whispered. "Yes, what if he hurts people? What if I can't control him? What if?" Conquest silenced her with a gentle kiss. "And then?" A Viltrumite child learns what he sees, who he sees. He placed her hand over his heart. "He will see your kindness." He moved her hand to her stomach. "He will feel your love." He finally placed her hand over his own. "And he will have my strength." Sarah closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. "And if he's the end of this world," she whispered. Conquest pulled her into his arms, voice fierce and full of devotion. "Then together we will build another." A visitor in the night, Part I. The child awakens before birth. Days passed in uneasy tension. Sarah felt her son move constantly, thrumming like a heartbeat against her own, filling her with both fear and power. Every time she touched Conquest, the sensation multiplied, like the baby recognized his father, already aware of the world outside the womb. The town was changing around them. Trees shifted subtly when Sarah walked. Windows flickered with strange lights. The creatures that had once threatened them remained at the edge of the forest, kneeling silently, watching her belly as if it were the sun itself. Conquest rarely left her side. He trained her in small ways, how to brace her body against the child's bursts of energy, how to focus her new light, and most importantly, how to fight without losing control. The pregnancy accelerates. One morning, Sarah awoke to a shock. Her abdomen had grown noticeably overnight. "Conquest," she whispered, panic threading her voice. He placed a hand over her stomach. "He's maturing rapidly, too rapidly. A Viltrumite child absorbs energy differently, especially one born of fractured realities." A sudden kick shot through her ribs and she cried out. Light flared faintly from her skin, brushing the walls of the room. Conquest held her tightly. He's strong, he murmured. Stronger than I imagined, but he won't hurt you, not if we guide him. Sarah trembled. What if he decides on his own? Conquest brushed hair from her face, jaw tight with worry and determination. Then I'll fight alongside him, and you always. The creatures react again. Outside the house, the forest was alive with low murmurs. Shadows twisted unnaturally. The creatures shuffled closer, no longer kneeling. This time their movement was hesitant, almost reverent. Jade whispered, "They're scared." "No," Tabitha said, swaying on her feet, eyes white. They recognize the child." Sarah touched her belly instinctively. The baby responded with a wave of energy. Trees bent slightly away. Birds fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. The creatures froze. Then one of the tallest emerged from the line, a skeletal figure with broken wings and glassy, reflective eyes. It bowed fully towards Sarah. "The Unmaker is coming," it whispered in a voice like grinding metal. Conquest moved to shield her instinctively. "I told you," he growled. "No one touches him." Sarah placed a hand on his chest. "Con, he's not attacking, not yet, he's listening." Conquest glanced down at her belly. A faint, golden shimmer spread from it, illuminating the edge of the forest. "The baby speaks." That night Sarah lay in bed, exhausted and trembling from the constant growth of her son. Conquest lay beside her, protective energy pulsing from his body. Suddenly, a vibration ran through her stomach, stronger than any movement before. Conquest stiffened. "Sarah." She gasped. He's trying to communicate." A voice echoed faintly, not in the room but inside her mind. "Mother, father, danger." Sarah's hands flew to her face. "Conquest, did you hear that?" He nodded slowly, eyes wide. "Yes, he's aware, he's speaking to you." Another pulse, another word. "Protect." Sarah pressed both hands to her belly, tears streaming. I will protect you, my love." Conquest wrapped his arms around her. "And I always." The baby kicked again, sending a ripple of golden energy across the room. Lamps flickered, the house trembled. Even outside, the creatures in the forest shuddered, as if they felt the child's command. The new threat emerges. At midnight, the ground beneath the town trembled. A tear in the earth split open, wider than any before, glowing with dark energy. From it crawled a new creature, taller, more grotesque, a mass of metal fused with shadow, writhing as if alive. Its multiple eyes glimmered red. "It wants the child," Tabitha whispered, voice hollow. "It wants him alive." Conquest stepped in front of Sarah, wings unfurling. His voice was deadly calm. "Not today, not ever." Sarah pressed a trembling hand to her stomach. Light flared across her skin as the baby stirred, sensing danger. The creature screamed, a metallic shriek that split the air and surged toward them. The baby kicked again, stronger this time. A pulse of energy erupted from Sarah, throwing the creature back into the earth. Conquest roared, "That's right, touch her and you touch me." The unborn half-VLTR mighty. Sarah collapsed to her knees, clutching her stomach as golden light spread across the room. Conquest knelt beside her, worried, but she looked up at him, eyes fierce. He's controlling it," she whispered. "The baby, he's half-Viltrumite, stronger than any human. He's already fighting with us." Conquest felt pride, awe, and terror wash over him simultaneously. "Our son, he's already a warrior," he said softly. Sarah trembled, tears in her eyes. "We have to survive until he's born, and then." Conquest kissed her forehead. "Then we face the world together, as a family." The town trembled again. The shadows at the forest's edge shifted uneasily, watching the glow from Sarah's body, waiting, calculating. Their half-Viltrumite son was already changing everything. And the world would never be the same. You have reached the end of the text.